Alright, YouTube, we're back talking some Square Enix and a little bit of Rockstar. So today's video is supposed to be a little more positive. We're going to talk a bit about like some of the positive aspects of the recent financial report that came out from Square Enix. Now, there's certainly going to be some negative aspects to the video regardless, because with the same financial report that we were going to discuss, they had mentioned wanting to use a lot more AI going forward. And as of like 2027, they want to be using like AI to do like 70% of their QA testing. And also for their debugging. So they wanted to have AI doing 70% of their QA testing for their games and also debugging of their games, which is just kind of insane to say, because I don't even know entirely how that would work. Like, I know AI is crazy these days, but like, how do you do like proper QA testing with AI? It gets worse than that, because as the day went on, before we could even get around to making the video, there's another report that came out that Square Enix is laying off a lot of people, like in their Western, like I guess departments or whatever. There's something like over 100 people, maybe even pushing potentially towards like 200 in like UK and the US. People just got laid off today. And like some of them are laid off maybe today, tomorrow, by the end of the week, whatever. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Within the same day, we have it announced from Square Enix that they want to use AI to do 70% of their quality assurance testing for their games and debugging for their games. But also they're laying off like 100 plus people. So it's kind of this like 1-2 punch of like, what the fuck is going on with this company? And then in terms of the Rockstar stuff, I want to talk about them delaying GTA6 till November of next year and how that may or may not affect, Square Enix potentially in terms of like Remake Part 3 or maybe Kingdom Hearts 4, maybe even potentially Dragon Quest 12, right? We don't know exactly when any of those games are coming out. But just kind of want to talk about that. But then there's like a negative thing surrounding the delay of the game, besides just the game itself being delayed, because it turns out the game might be delayed till November of next year because a lot of the staff are revolting against Rockstar because they recently fired something like 40 employees in a union-busting effort. Kind of a lot of negative gaming news today, which isn't my favorite thing to talk about, but sometimes it's stuff we got to discuss. Square Enix says it wants generative AI to be doing 70% of its QA and debugging by the end of 2027. They've also announced layoffs across nearly all areas of its Western business today. Following the release of its latest financial results, the publisher posted a progress report on its medium-term business plan, which was originally announced last year under the name Square Enix Reboots and Awakens. As part of this plan, Square Enix says it has launched a partnership with the Matsuo Iwasawa Laboratory at the University of Tokyo, which is aimed at improving the efficiency of game development process through AI technologies. The project, which is titled Joint Development of Game QA Automation Technology Using Generative AI, hell of a fucking title, is being tackled by a joint research team of more than 10 members, including researchers from the University of Tokyo and engineers from the Square Enix group. The goal, according to the report, is to automate 70% of QA and debugging tasks in game development by the end of 2027. Now look, if you put aside the negative aspects of AI as a general thing, of just how bad that shit is for like the environment and whatever, right? Putting that stuff aside for a second, like, be able to use AI to like test games, there is a positive to that, where you could, instead of hiring 100 people to do it, you could have, AI running like 100 instances of a game for like hours on end. And that would technically be simpler to do, right, than having to hire 100 people. Now, that comes at the cost of 100 people not having jobs, right? That's another obvious negative here, and it's been a concern for a very long time since the rise of AI over the last couple of years, people losing their jobs to that shit. And we're already seeing that right here with Square Enix. I'm sure other companies out there are trying to do this shit too. And that sort of like transitions into the next topic of people losing their jobs today, is like you have them talking about wanting to use AI and people maybe having their jobs replaced by AI, and then Square Enix lets go of 100-something people today, and it just definitely feels like that's what's happening. The thing is too, even if there are like positive aspects potentially to using AI to help like debug a game or quality assurance test a game, like how good can that be with AI? Like, because regardless of how good AI might be these days, it doesn't have the human touch of like, my goal is to like hop into this game, test everything I can, and also try to break the game, like make sure the game works in every kind of aspect, right? And how good is AI going to be at doing that? You didn't say 100% AI for like debugging and QA testing, right? So there's still going to be like humans doing that, I assume, in some capacity. But still, it's like a large portion of it's going to be AI, right? It isn't just like 51%. It isn't just like the slight majority. It's fucking 70%. That's a large majority of your QA testing and debugging is done by AI. Even just putting a lot of this shit aside, just the positives and negatives potentially of using AI for this stuff, it's just bad to use AI, right? The rise of AI over the last couple of years is just bad for the environment, right? The carbon dioxide emissions from like just all this computing shit all the time, electricity being used and stuff, it's just bad for the environment, which is almost like, is ironic the right word, I guess, that Square Enix, who's previously Squaresoft, that made Final Fantasy VII, is wanting to get involved in this shit.
You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain?
Actually, bring you to something FF7 for a second when we're talking AI. When it came to like Rebirth, I believe they used AI for like mouth movements, for like localization, right? I don't know if they did in all the different languages, but obviously the game is made in Japanese, so the original script and what's said is in Japanese. Their mouths move based on the Japanese dialogue, right? but I believe they used AI to match what's said in English, right? And maybe some of the other languages that the game's translated into. But regardless, like, that's like a decent use of AI, right? There's still going to be negative shit. Anytime you use AI, people are going to complain, right? And I'm with you on that for sure. But that's at least like a somewhat positive use of AI. And when it comes to the discussion of using AI for like debugging and QA testing and things like that, like I've seen people try to defend it. In my replies on Twitter, I had somebody talking about how like it would help with their job, right? Making their job a little bit easier if you used AI to help debug code and stuff like that. And I totally get that. But if it's good, if it's really good at what it does, it's going to fucking replace you. You should not want this. Like, why would a company want to pay another human for hours and hours a day, 5-6 days a week or whatever, when they can have this goddamn robot do it for free? In a video call to staff outside of its home country of Japan, including those based in Europe and America, Square Enix president Takashi Kiryu said the company was implementing overseas structural reform to create a more lean and agile business abroad. Square Enix will be implementing a fundamental restructuring of the overseas publishing organization, Kiryu said. Details of the restructure will be shared at a later date, staff were told. However, it confirmed roles would be cut, employees left would be required to spend more time working in the office. Employees affected by the cuts would be informed on Thursday, staff on the video call were told, which is obviously today. As is typical for company layoffs, no headcount figures were shared during the call, VGC was told. However, one person affected in Europe said that nearly 140 people were told they were at risk in the London office alone. So that's why earlier when we talked about this, I mentioned upwards of potentially 200 people, because just in the London office alone, there's 140 people that were at risk, right? It's not even counting I don't even know if there's any other like Square Enix European like fucking offices or companies or something. I have no goddamn idea. And there's still the US, which we don't have like a number for. So like it's at least like 140-ish people potentially that are all at risk. And then there's all the US shit. So it's like there could be upwards of like 200 people that just fucking lost their jobs today. And that to me is a lot more upsetting in a lot of ways than the AI shit, which itself is very upsetting as well. But you have, 100 plus people, maybe pushing towards 200 people that just lost their jobs, their livelihood today. Their families are affected by that shit, right? And they're only told this probably a few days ahead of time. They don't even know till today whether or not they're going to lose their goddamn job. And I firsthand have seen quite a bit of people talking about losing their job from Square Enix today, just on the feed on Twitter, right? I do follow some of like the Western staff when it comes to like social media people and stuff for Square Enix. And I don't know if anybody that I personally interact with has lost their job as of today. But I have seen like just across the feed, like unfortunately today I was affected by the Square Enix layoff or something like that, right? And I've just seen a lot of like outpour of support from people in the community, like a lot of content creators, like, sad of course that people are losing their job working for Square Enix. And for some of the people out there, it was a dream job, right? Like a lot of people are fans of Square Enix, fans of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, whatever it might be, and it's like a dream job for them to work in some capacity for Square Enix, and they just lost potentially their dream job today. There's no positive way to talk about it, no positive spin you can put it on. It just fucking sucks, dude. That includes staff across IT, marketing, publishing, sales, QA, business planning, and more. This is where we kind of bring it back to this two stories converging, right? Because we have a bunch of layoffs from Square Enix today. Part of the layoffs is QA testing. And then there's a financial report that comes out where they're like, by 2027, we want to have fucking AI doing 70% of the QA testing for our games. Fuck off. It is really hard to be a fan of this company sometimes, man, because I do love some of Square Enix's games. I'm not like a massive Square Enix fan. I say this all the time, right? It's mostly Final Fantasy, a bit of Kingdom Hearts, a bit of Dragon Quest, a really small bit of Nier, right? I don't play all the Square Enix games out there, right? And it's just, you see stuff like this. These layoffs and this use of AI and other shit they've done over the last couple of years, NFTs and other stuff like that, right? Just scummy shit nobody gives a fuck about. And it's just so hard to be a fan sometimes. As for the Rockstar stuff, I'm going to be honest. As we've gone through this video, like, shit's kind of put me into like a kind of a terrible mood. I don't know how much I care to talk about the Rockstar shit, because it doesn't really matter in terms of what we're talking about here, right? I kind of want to talk about how it might relate to Square Enix and stuff like that, but it's so not important. We're talking about people's livelihood and shit right now, right? We might talk about it maybe tomorrow, potentially. How like the delay of GTA6 may or may not affect Square Enix, because it's delayed to November of next year, but who knows if it's going to get delayed again, right? So there's a chance that like the release date of GTA6 could definitely affect 7 Remake or Kingdom Hearts 4 or Dragon Quest 12. So I do think that's worth a discussion. But I'll definitely link to some Rockstar shit in the description below if you guys want to check it out, because it's verifiably them firing people for trying to create a union because of the working conditions at Rockstar. That's all this is. And it's very important people at Rockstar that got fired, which is probably why the game got pushed to November of next year. I'm not really sure how to conclude the video, so we're just going to wrap it up, I suppose. That's the video, my dudes. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Search in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, ffvii. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect, we spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane, we in here like low gain or leave it. like Cobain.